o'clock p.m. If we could start by introducing ourselves, please.
Elizabeth Edwardson, Associate Planner.
Kyle Kearns, Director of Community Development.
Steve Schifferl, Commission Member.
Lee Tao, Commission Member.
Jeff Marutz, Commission Member.
Katie Bailey, Commission Member.
Ryan Austin, Commission Member, and also District 1 Alderman.
Eric Doven, Commission Member.
Matt Zacher, Commission Chair and Mayor.
Michael Tim, District 7 Alderman.
Dean Veneman, District 2 Alderman.
Dennis Pollock, 6th Ward Alderman.
Sue Schill, City Attorney.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Item 1, approval of report from December 1st, 2025 Planning Commission meeting. Commission, what are your wishes?
Motion to approve the report.
I'll second.
I got a motion by Austin, seconded by Davin. Questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 7-0. Item 2, public hearing and action on a request from the state of Wisconsin for a land use map to reclassify 473 Griffith Avenue, parcel ID 3414095 from a mixed land residential, future. Let me work on this. All right, I'm starting over. Item 2, public hearing and action on a request from the state of Wisconsin for an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan, specifically map 7-2 future land use map to reclassify 473 Griffith Avenue, parcel ID 3414095 from a mixed land use classification of residential and governmental public institutional to a governmental public institutional land use classification.
I'll be going over items 2 and 3 kind of at the same time, though they will need separate action. I don't know if you want to read the third item
good.
as well.
All right, so item number 3 reads, public hearing and action on a request from the state of Wisconsin to rezone 473 Griffith Avenue, parcel ID 3414095 from a rural residential RR zoning district to an institutional I1 zoning district. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So the property is owned by the state of Wisconsin, and a regional service center building for the DNR and a storage building for DNR forestry and law enforcement exists on site currently. The current land use designation is mixed, so it's both residential and governmental public institutional, and the zoning district is rural residential. So when the comprehensive plan and future land use map were created, it's likely that this discrepancy was overlooked and it wasn't taken into account that the DNR was well established on the parcel and likely to persist into the future, the uses on site. So this request is to rectify that and rezone the parcel to the appropriate zoning district, which would be institutional I1 district. So in looking at the comprehensive plan amendment review standards, we reviewed the request based on the 2 criteria. Also, here is a table showing the surrounding uses, and you can also see in the picture the mixed designations for the zoning map. Oh, and also we found that both of the criteria for the comprehensive plan amendments they were both met. So then for the zoning map amendment standards of review, the request to institutional I1 district would be consistent with the comprehensive plan if it is amended as requested. The amendment is consistent with other planning documents adopted by the Common Council. The uses and structures on site would become more conforming and consistent with the zoning ordinance if amended as proposed. And as I said before, the governmental uses on the property are well established, so a residential zoning district is not an appropriate zoning district for them, as it does not permit the uses. So our recommendation for both items 2 and 3 is to approve. With that, any questions?
All right, thank you. Commission, what are your wishes?
Do we need a public hearing?
We'll do a public hearing. Any questions or comments before I open it up to a public hearing? Okay, seeing none. At 4:05 PM, I'm opening up this item for discussion to a public hearing. So anyone wishing to speak for or against anything in items 2 or 3, go ahead and please step forward at this time. For a second time, I open it up to the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against, please step forward. Could you make sure the mic's on? The yellow light will be showing if it's on, and then please state your name and address, please.
Oh, okay. Matt Pulitzer. I live at 2530 Lovewood Drive. I attended the last meeting, but I was kind of timid and didn't come up and ask questions I had. I was wondering if it's okay to ask them at this time?
I just want to clarify that what we're talking about right now is not the solar array. That's not anything to do with that. Just has to do with questions 2 and 3 here of what we're talking about. So we will open it up to comments about the solar array.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else on items 2 or 3? I'll open it up to public hearing for a third time. Anyone wishing to speak for or against these issues or this issue, please step forward.
My name's Patrick Johnson. I live on 475 Brianwood Avenue. I live right across the forestry. Is there going to be any, I don't quite understand. So when you open it up to residential, are there going to be any limitations or restrictions on when they start building the houses there? Is it going to be like a low income? Is it going to decrease the value of the houses around it? I mean, when you say rural residential, I'd like to know more of a definite what's going to be built there.
All right.
So there isn't any current plans for residential on the parcel. The zoning district right now is rural residential, and the request is to change that to the institutional district. So there's no residential plans. Currently, there's no residential on it right now.
Right.
So,
But is there plans to do residential?
No.
Okay. So what are we rezoning it to? I guess I don't quite understand.
So right now, the zoning district is rural residential,
Okay.
and the request is to change that to institutional I-1 district,
Okay.
which doesn't permit residential uses.
Okay. Thank you. I just didn't
Yep.
quite understand.
That's okay.
Can you
This is
explain? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say this is preempted by the DNR wanting to continue to develop there and build additional outbuildings on that parcel. And they cannot do so under the current zoning classification. So they are requesting a rezone from residential to institutional so that they can continue to develop on that parcel.
Okay. So it's just to add on more buildings?
Yes.
That-
Eventually, yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, or anyone wishing to speak for or against items 2 or 3 on the agenda? All right, seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing at 4:09 PM and turn it back over to the commission. What are your wishes, commission?
I'll make a motion to reclassify 473 Griffith Avenue, parcel ID 3414095, from a mixed land use classification of residential and governmental public institutional to a governmental public institutional land use classification.
I'll second.
I got a motion by Austin, second by Marutz, in favor of this motion. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Any other questions or comments from anyone else? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 7-0. As pertaining to, we just went over item 2, as pertaining to item 3, Commission, what are your wishes?
I'll motion to approve the request for the applicant for a conditional use permit to operate. Oh, no, this is something. We're doing
Item
this-
3.
I'm on the wrong, okay.
So we're talking about the same piece of parcel.
So I'll motion to request to rezone 473 Griffin Avenue, parcel ID 3414095 from a RR to an I1 zoning district.
I'll second.
I had a motion by Maroots, seconded by Devin. Did you have something to?
Just clarification, Sue, is it okay that the public hearing occurred for this item previously? Or would you like a separate public hearing?
No, I think it was clear that the public
There
hearing
were-
was for both,
Perfect.
both
Thank you.
items.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve item 3. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Questions or comments from anybody else? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and cast our votes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 7-0. Item 4, public hearing and action on a request from Athena Hoffling for a conditional use permit to operate vehicle sales and rental at 510 12th Avenue North, parcel ID 3400902.
Thank you, Mayor. So the request is to establish vehicle sales and rental on the property as conditional use. The property is currently functioning as a vehicle repair shop. So this is preempted by a new vehicle repair shop coming in, and they're wanting to also do the vehicle sales and rental. So the property is zoned General Industrial M1 District, and vehicle repair shops are permitted in the General Industrial District. This is a site plan showing the building, the use, the separation of where the different uses are going to occur, and the parking proposed on site. For conditional use permit standards, it's a 1.74 acre lot, which is sufficient in size for the proposed uses. The property is suitable for the uses, and they're compatible together as well as compatible with the surrounding properties and zoning districts. Access is adequate, there won't be any changes. Expected to have minimal, if any, effects on the natural environment. The uses will operate during normal business hours, and the use should not impede normal development and improvement of the surrounding area. The site plan review, the proposed location for the display of vehicles appears to meet required setbacks. Driveway standards are met as a change in use doesn't trigger any change to the ingress and egress to the site. We believe the number of parking spaces shown on the site plan should be sufficient for both uses. However, we would like to ensure that the site plan accurately reflects all parking lot dimensional standards are met, and we would like to recommend an updated site plan to be submitted. At this time, there are no requirements for landscaping. Architectural review is not required as there are no proposed changes to the principal building. Lighting and photometric plan is not required as there are no proposed changes to lighting on site. Our recommendation is to approve with these 2 conditions. 1, the applicant shall submit an updated site plan showing all parking requirements are met to be reviewed and approved by the Community Development Department. 2, Community Development Department shall have the authority to approve minor modifications to the plans. And I'm not sure if the applicant is here. Yes, so if you have questions for the applicant.
Before I open it up to a public hearing, does anybody want to recognize the owner and ask them to come up for questions?
I'll recognize the applicant.
If you want to come forward for any questions, or if you want to just give us a introduction and your business.
My name is Athena Hofling. I'm currently operating out on Highway 54 between Rapids and Plover. Been in business for about 2.5 years. Just looking at relocating.
Okay, thank you. Commission, any questions or comments? No.
I'll move to approve the conditional use permit to operate vehicle sales and rental at 510 25th Avenue North, subject to staff recommendations.
Okay, first I got to take care of a few other things. Hold on to that, yep. Thank you for your time. Don't have any questions for you, so thank you for your work efforts here. All right, at this point in time is 4:16 p.m. I open up the floor to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this item on the agenda, please step forward now. For a second time, I call anyone wishing to speak for or against item 4 on the agenda, please step forward. And for a third time, anyone wishing to speak for or against this item, please step forward. All right, thank you. I close this public hearing at 4:16 p.m. and bring it back to the commission. And Mr. Austin, if you would like to repeat your.
Yeah, my motion still stands to approve the conditional use permit.
I got a motion by Austin, seconded by Tao. Any questions or comments from the commission? Mr. Dobbin? Oh, no. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and put it to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. Good luck. Item 5, action on request from the City of Wisconsin Rapids Waterworks and Lighting Commission to rezone 2211 Whitrock Avenue, parcel ID 3414515, and 2520 2 Mile Avenue, parcel ID 3414520, from R2 Mixed Residential Zoning District to a C1 Conservancy Zoning District for the purpose of constructing a solar power plant. Mr. Kearns, do you want us to read these together or handle them separate?
I can do either. I can speak to both of them if you'd like, or we can do it separately.
Any issues, Sue, with kind of reading item 6 at the same time?
No, I think in terms of gathering information and such, but I would
Vote on
obviously
them separately.
vote separate.
Okay. All right, I'm going to read off item 6, and then I am going to, with everyone's permission, this is not a public hearing. We've already had a public hearing on this and had to delay, but we've kind of agreed that we want to be able to open it up to the public again so that they have their opportunity to speak. So I'm going to go ahead and finish reading off item 6. So item 6, action on a request from City of Wisconsin Rapids Waterworks and Lighting Commission for a conditional use permit to construct a solar power plant at 2211 Whitrock Avenue, parcel ID 3414515, and 2520 2 Mile Avenue, parcel ID 3414520. So yeah, at this time, I'm going to give folks a chance to give us their, I guess, what we're looking for. We spent about 3 hours a month ago getting the public hearing, everybody's feedback. We want to hear it again, but we want to make sure that it's not repeating the same things over and over again. It's new information, new questions to ask. Certainly, able to share opinions on that, and then allow the commission to, commission to do their thing. So, at this point in time,
Mayor, can I just
Yes.
have one point of clarification here? Item 5, stating that the conservancy zoning would be for the purpose of a solar power plant. Is that the intent here, Mr. Kearns, is to rezone it to C1 for the solar plant, or is this something you would do regardless of the solar plant?
So the request was made with that being the end use, so it's mentioned. We've shared the site plan as part of that request. But like in any rezoning, once the property's rezoned, it's certainly possible that the solar power plant would not move forward. It does not lock the city into having to do the solar power plant. And it is my opinion that regardless if the solar power plant moves forward or not, if it's rezoned to conservancy, that's an appropriate zoning classification if the intent is to protect the wellhead areas. Again, regardless of if the solar project moves forward. Does that answer the question?
Just want to do another point of clarification. As Bailey brought up, like if understanding that what's happening here today is we're voting on the changing of the zoning and this conditional use permit. So it still has to go. So basically it was which comes first? Do we ask if we can do a solar array first and then ask the council at the finance and property or the committee at the finance and property committee, which would then go to council to say, do you actually want to do the solar array project? So what we're talking about today is changing the zoning and the conditional use permit. What we're talking about next week on the 13th during finance and property committee is, are we actually doing a solar array project on the land or not? So the point here is we can still zone it conservancy, but still not put a solar array up on it. That'll be a conversation next Tuesday. Okay. That being said, I'll open the floor to someone who want to speak.
Can I speak
Yes, sir.
now, or
Yes, sir.
on the solar?
So yeah, again, make sure the light is on by pushing the push button.
Yep, the green light is on.
Sounds good.
Matt Pultzer, 2530 Lovewood Drive. The question I have is about the 300-foot buffer. My house is in the 300-foot buffer. I mean, how can that be considered a buffer when my property is in the buffer? And the other question I had is, let's take 2 Mile for an example. You have the road, and then you got the ditch, and you got the telephone poles, and then you got the woods. How much are they gonna leave, like 5 foot of the woods or 10 foot before they clear out the rest? I guess those are the 2 questions I have. And also, I'm concerned about my loss of property value. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kearns?
I can clarify that the 300-foot buffer that I believe you reference is solely for the purpose of notifying property owners within a vicinity. So everyone within 300 feet surrounding these 2 parcels was notified and received a letter. That's all the reference is, because that's statutorily in the zoning code that everyone within 300 feet. Yep. However, there have been references to other buffers surrounding the solar array in regards to the tree buffer. I think the buffer's been referenced regarding the wellhead protection area as well. So certainly there are other buffers that have been discussed. But 300 feet is specific to that notification letter.
I understand your clarification.
Okay.
But, okay, from the road to where the trees start, do we know how many feet of trees they're gonna leave before they?
I think it varies as shown on the map up there, but certainly somebody from Water and Light could possibly speak to that further.
But wouldn't the solar array kind of be a rectangle? So
Yep, if you look behind you on the site plan, that indicates and shows the tree buffer. The green are the remaining trees shown there.
okay. Can you tell me how many feet that is? I can't read it.
It's between 150 and 250 feet.
So where the trees are currently now, they're gonna leave 150 feet before they do the solar array?
Yeah.
Oh, from the center line of the road.
It's from the property line.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Heidi Sorensen. I own the property 2311 2 Mile Avenue. And a couple of things that I'll start with. First of all, I'm not in favor of the rezoning at all. I think most of the people who own the houses around that area are in favor of keeping that residential and leaving it natural. It's an aesthetic value, and it's the kind of thing that you don't care about if it's happening to somebody else, but if it's happening to you, you definitely care. So we have to personalize it and put each of ourselves in that position. If that was happening to me, how would I feel about it? There's something that's not being talked about here. When you install another source of power here, you have to maintain that power. We're going to be adding a whole new level of power. Just like owning 2 houses or 3 houses, it's going to cost you more money. Not going to save you money. It costs more to maintain multiple systems, and we're still going to have to rely on the grid for electricity. This, I don't know if you're using batteries to store energy. Most batteries on these smaller solar plants can only hold about 4 hours worth of energy. So when does the sun go down? It's winter time, 4 o'clock, 9 o'clock. What are you going to do? Lights are out. Uh-oh. Now you got to use the power grid because you're done. That's it. How many days of solar light do we have every single year? It's just over 3,000 sunny, 3,000 sunny photovoltaic hours that we actually have to work with. And that's starting at whenever the sun rises till the time it sets. You can only utilize 10 to 20% of that power in the early morning hours and the late hours of the day. So now you're limited to only between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So how many hours are you left with? I think it's a foolish idea to do a solar plant. I realize it's the technology of the future, but we have to take into consideration multiple systems that we have to maintain. And we have to consider, we live in a northern climate, 45-degree northern latitude, and we have really cold winters. We have twice as many cold months as we have warm months. And when we're going to need the power, it's not going to be there because the demand, it won't be able to supply the demand. So we're still going to have to maintain a power grid. We have to rely on that. We can't separate ourselves. It's the natural gas, hydropower. But I would say if you're going to spend the money, spend it somewhere else.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Amy Grimm, I live at 2511, which is just down the road from her, and if you know anything about the property, I'm directly across the street from the pump house. If this project moves forward, we are going to have to be pulping that land. I enjoy sitting outside in my front yard. This is not going to be enjoyable for me, having these pump trucks, and after that, pulp trucks, and after that, it's going to be the trucks bringing in and out these solar panels to put it in. This is not a big enough area to get any amount of energy from. It just isn't worth it to tear all that down for not enough panels to be put in. Again, as she said, our winters, our summers, we don't get, the road does not even thaw there because there's no sun that gets through. Those trees are too tall. I understand that you're only going to put 25 acres worth and using so many acres around it to try and get some of that. Again, that takes away from what you're going to be utilizing, and it's just not enough to make it worth tearing all this up. The Ridges has their cross-country where they do in the summer. Everyone enjoys walking through that woods to go to enjoy that day, and that's something that this small area still needs. It's just, to me, it's just not worth it, and I hope you're actually listening to us and you haven't actually made up your mind already, because it's just a shame to take that small area for something that's not going to be significant enough ever. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Todd Goska, 4721 Ridgeview Court. Talking about this property, I went back after the first meeting. We tried to purchase this in 1996. We were going to do some residential development. I was told by Water and Light, can't do it, it's well protection. So things might have changed in 30 years. I'm not sure. Number one, I got a few things for the committee. Environmental study hasn't been done. Don't know, that's your baby. 30-year cleanup, the company's only 17 years old. What's gonna happen? We were told last meeting, if there is contamination, we're looking at about 80 to about 100 million to clean this up or to put a new well in. Is it worth it? Number four, have we looked at the land across from Home Depot? And number five, this kind of reminds me of a shingle company after a storm. When the customers were trying to pay for their shingles, the company, it was years back, they filed for Chapter 7 and no customer got paid for their shingles. Thank you, and I appreciate a vote no.
Thank you.
Hi, Lynn Deary, 3030 10th Street South. I don't live over there. However, I am a resident of Wisconsin Rapids, and I do use the Wisconsin Rapids city water. Now, I hope you guys are taking into consideration, we all rely on that water. I know you're all going to do what you want to do, not this planning people, but the next meeting. They're going to do what they want to do. They've already made up their minds. Put the solar panels in, I don't care. Just not over our water wells. That's ludicrous. We already have PFAS in our bodies, in our soil, in our food. So let's just reassure the Wisconsin Rapids citizens that we're not going to have it leach into our water. These are plastic, a lot of them are plastic components, probably made in China, and they don't give a rip. So I just hope you guys really listen to us, because this is getting ridiculous when every one of us come up and we say, we're against it, we don't want it, but I know you guys are going to put the solar panels in somewhere, but please, not over that land. If you know anything of earth science when you're a kid, the trees help clean the pollution, the land helps clean the pollution, and then it goes into our water wells, the water, hopefully cleaner than before. But with those solar panels on it, I can guarantee you, more than likely I'll be gone in 30 years. But our grandkids, our great-grandkids, they're going to be relying on that water. So do the right thing, please.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Laura Ewell, and I live at 1740 5th Street South. I am not anywhere near this property. However, I read the proposal, and according to the proposal, we're not supposed to incur any cost for citizens. However, a proposal is different from a contract. And I'm worried that they're going to put something in that contract that's going to impede on us to have to pay money. I also agree with Lynn regarding the water wells. Why is it being put over the water wells? It's like she said, it's ludicrous. And also, why isn't this being put to a vote by the residents, by the citizens of this city? Why is it up to 7 people in this city when there are multiple other people that would like to have their voices heard? Not everyone is on Facebook. Not everyone heard about this project. So I think it needs to be brought to a referendum vote. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the commission. What are your wishes? Okay, sorry. Going back to starting with item 5, I'll reread action on a request from the City of Wisconsin Rapids Waterworks and Lighting Commission to rezone 2211 Whitrock Avenue, parcel ID 3414515 and 2520 2 Mile Avenue, parcel ID 3414520 from a R2 mixed residential zoning district to a C1 conservancy zoning district for the purpose of constructing a solar power plant. Commission, on item 5 specifically, what are your wishes?
So I have a question for Kyle. On the conservancy, does that guarantee a protection of the wellheads? We're not gonna change, just changing it to conservancy, we're not doing nothing else to that property, correct?
The conservancy classification significantly limits the other uses that can occur on the property.
So it basically stays as is, just like the conservancy down by the lakefront.
So one of the uses via the conditional use permit process is a solar power plant. So if you want to see the list of uses, I can pull up, or have Liz pull up the use table that will show you the uses that are allowed by right or via conditional use permit within that conservancy district. But essentially, the conservancy district exists to protect environmentally sensitive areas because it limits the amount of uses within that district.
So it would really be in our best interest to put it as a conservancy, and everything's got to come through here for a conditional use permit to build anything on that land.
There's very few permitted item or uses within that district, yes. So if it's the intent of the council and the plan commission to protect those lands, to limit development, then conservancy is a fitting zoning classification regardless of the solar power project.
Thank you, Kyle.
Any other questions?
I guess I was wondering if maybe representatives were here from Water and Light or the company looking to do this to maybe address some of those concerns that were brought up tonight, such as maintenance, the construction timeline, securities over the tear down, or the dangers to the solar, or the dangers to the wellhead because of solar. I guess there was a confusion between, is there dangers from residential on the property to the wells, or what kind of dangers would the wells have because of solar?
Hello, Todd Weiler, General Manager, Water and Light. I think all of us should be able to agree on number 5. We want to protect this land for the wells. If you're for solar or against solar, going ahead with rezoning it, it just protects the wells and the water supply. So that's I think the foremost thing that the Planning Commission needs to look at. When it comes to number 6, so that's where we're asking to actually use the land for the solar array. That's the bigger question. You heard a lot of opposition for that. What I can tell you is that after the last month's meeting, hearing everybody that was talking about it, I again went back, tried to do as much research that I could possibly find on can solar panels leach material that could get into the water supply. And the type of solar panels being proposed, I could not find any research on that. And I have Stanley here from One Energy that can also speak on that subject as well and tell you more about the actual type of solar panel being used. So the other thing is, so this land was planted with red pine trees with the idea that we could gain revenue from cutting the wood and selling the wood at some time when the trees are mature. As we know, the root system on a red pine plantation is not advantageous to filtering water, and so it really has no benefit in that regard. So with this project, the reason that we are on the inner 40 acres where 25 of that is the solar array, all 40 is being planted with prairie grass and pollinators. Now, this type of plant system is known by research to be the best filtration system for the land. And because of that, it actually is going to improve the quality of the water, not make the quality of the water worse. The other big concern by the residents was not wanting to see this from their windows. That is why we're keeping the 150-foot border of trees, because everybody was talking about that concern last month. Since then, we have been in contact with a local landscape designer because our intention is that we do not want the residents to see this from their homes. And we are yet to go ahead with that design yet, because we'd like to see the project approved before we did it. But we intend to hire that person to make sure that if there are places in the 150-foot barrier where you could see the solar array from a resident's home, that we fill that in with native plants so that they cannot see the solar array. So, you know, when you look at it, it's a 40-acre piece inside an 80-acre piece. One advantage I think that nobody's thinking about as well is the land is still public, and at some point it'll take about 3 to 4 years to establish this pollinator plant system. It takes that long for the root systems to develop, but you are going to have an area that you are going to be able to walk in that's going to be, in the summertime, all these native flowering plants that are going to attract things like butterflies and bees and hummingbirds. So it actually could benefit the land if you look at it from that perspective. So we talked about the savings, and we did the initial analysis that I talked about on December 1st was that, so it's a $100,000 investment for the utility to hook up this solar array. That's the portion that Wisconsin Rapids has to pay for. It's a one-time fee. If you looked at the 2024 numbers and you said, okay, here's what this solar array will put out at these hours of the day in Wisconsin, in our zip code, it's going to reduce both our wheeling costs and our demand costs. And Great Lakes Utilities, who we are a member of, who is actually purchasing the power produced from One Energy, they're allowing the local utility that puts these in, and they're planning on putting 4 of these in Marshfield, and 1 in Clintonville, and 1 in Shawano, and maybe 1 here in Rapids, or maybe not. But what we looked at, if we just kept 2024 numbers on wheeling costs and demand costs when this array performs, over the 30 years, we were looking at a $6 million payback. And the first question that night was, well, how low or how much is my power bill going to go down? And your power bill is not going to go down. What we're trying to do is hedge future costs. And this is going to help us keep those costs lower so that we don't have to go in for future rate increases. So after that night, when people were like, $6 million isn't enough, we decided to go back and look at our numbers again. We took a 5-year historical scale on these wheeling costs and these demand costs. The demand costs have been rising at a 5% a year rate. The wheeling costs have been rising at a 2% rate. And so if you project those costs into the next 30 years, instead of saving $6 million, this project is going to save $17 million. Those are big dollar amounts for our customers. And when you start breaking it down into a resident isn't going to see a lot of savings. They're only going to see dollars. But when you look at businesses, they're going to be saving hundreds of dollars. And if you look at our larger industrial customers, over the 30-year term of the solar array, they're going to save over $1 million. And one of the problems that we're having in this community is attracting businesses to our area. And this is just a tool that would help us keep our rates down in order to attract those businesses. And with that, I would turn it over to Stanley from One Energy so he can talk a little more about the array itself.
Thank you.
Hello, excuse me. I'm Stanley Minnick with One Energy Renewables. We're out of Madison, Wisconsin. We've got a few offices, but that's the one I work out of. I want to address a couple things related to the water quality. One of the things that we do in all of these designs is we require any transformers on the locations on our projects to use what's referred to as FR3 fluid instead of a more harmful chemical. So FR3 fluid is a soy-based transformer coolant. So I don't think you want to drink this stuff, but it's not the equivalent of like mineral oil or something like that. It's a bio-derived product. So that's one thing we do to make sure that even if something did happen to damage that transformer, that the fluid that's in it isn't going to harm the local water. The other thing, a lot of studies related to water quality risks and the chemicals in solar panels refer to thin film, which is a very specific type of solar panel that is not commercially viable at this scale. So a lot of the concern about the solar panels leaching is based on cadmium, chrome, and things that are found in thin film solar panels. The panels we'd be using are crystalline, monocrystalline or polycrystalline, and it's basically silicon, glass, aluminum frame, etc. And another thing on the cost, One Energy's worked with municipal utilities for going back 2016 in Wisconsin. We started working on projects in partnership with Organic Valley, and they built those projects for towns like Lafarge, Cashton, et cetera. And I don't think we would have even been introduced to the folks at Great Lakes Utilities if we slipped in poison pill type things into our contracts. We were asked at the first meeting, we'd like more transparency on this contract. So we provided that, and we are happy to sit down in good faith and go over the details and the nuts and bolts, not just of the lease agreement, but of any subsequent documents that need to be signed. So I want to just say that. And then on the cost side, we're not going to be paid by the utility for anything other than the energy that we deliver to their customers. So if we fail at our job of building a functioning solar array, we're not going to be able to bill them for anything. The only thing other than that setup cost of running the line that we will be paid for is energy delivered to the grid. And then, yeah, and I guess the other thing just related to Great Lakes Utilities, their attorneys and consultants and folks are reviewing all of these documents as well. So it's not just falling on Todd and the utilities team, but it's a larger group of people that are evaluating it from the utilities and the community's perspectives. So while Todd's been doing this, I think, over 20 years, and I've grown to really trust his judgment and appreciate him, it's not just him evaluating this, it's a bunch of other people with a lot of experience evaluating these things. So that's what I wanted to add. And then in closing, I would just say, if a project is built here, we want to try to work with the community in any way we can. And we hope that by engaging with the project and showing people a project up close and personal, that it'll demystify and make the project a little easier to tolerate. But we aren't in a position as the company building the solar to put up a screen like Todd was mentioning. So that's something that would have to be something the utility chose to do. But we would also support that as well. Unless there's any other questions for me? Yes, sir?
Stanley, do you have any other projects that are over wellheads anywhere?
We do not presently. In Minnesota, there's been some drinking water studies done with the intent of using solar farms over wellhead areas that have high nitrate concentration, because the belief is that it reduces the nitrates in that case. In this setting, you don't have nitrates. It's not a farmed environment, so it's different than that. But there is a lot of interest as well to put actual water quality monitoring. And we're speaking with some consultants that are really excited about the opportunity to use some research funding, if we did a project here, to actually monitor the water quality. And if there's a problem, you're at least going to find out about it. I can't see how silicon, glass, copper, and steel are going to leach into.
And I can't see how residentials can do the same thing. I mean, I look at this map and I see within the wellhead next to 2 Mile, at least 30 homes within that protection area. Why we put the wellhead right there? If we're so worried about things leaching into our water, but now we're going to put a solar array literally 50 feet from the one wellhead and probably 75 from the other wellhead, but now we're like, oh, it's fine. I don't get that. I don't believe in any of that. Whether you know it leaches in or doesn't, I don't think anybody knows. It could be 30 years from now before it leaches into that water, and now we're back to where had we put homes on there in the same process. So I don't mind moving it into conservation, but this solar thing just is a negative and a no for me.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So has those transformers or anything ever exploded like a transformer in an electric company and the fire erupted in any of the solar arrays?
None of I haven't had anything like that with any projects at One Energy. The closest thing I can think of is when we were shipping a transformer, the shipper took the turn a little hard and clipped one of the fins, and it leaked the fluid out. And that's how we got to learn even more about what the cleanup process for this FR3 fluid is. It is a lot different than if you spill mineral oil or diesel fuel. The restrictions on diesel fuel and things like that that might be kept on site temporarily during construction are more stringent than the transmission fluid, the fluid within the transformers.
Over time, will they wear down and possibly explode, that your fire could arise on the site?
My understanding with transformers is the design life is closer to 40, 50 years on those. And a lot of times, even at the end of life, they're repurposing and refurbishing those transformers for future use. So
Everything that I've read about the panels and everything, and it sounds really good. I've read all the pros, and the cons are the severe weather, the hail, the hot to the cold, that there's panels that have created micro fractures. Now, I don't know if the panels are soldered with lead or if that's not in there, or,
yeah, to my knowledge, there's no lead soldering in the panels that we're using.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And it is tempered glass. I mean, that more is protection from hail. They're usually rated to handle about 1 inch to 1.25 inch diameter hail at 50 miles an hour. The other thing I think I mentioned this in the first one, but we also carry a really extensive insurance policy as anybody investing in something this expensive would. And that policy more than covers replacement of every panel on the site if they were damaged. The steel beams, if you have hail big enough to damage a steel beam, by all means, there's nothing we can do about that. I don't think it exists. The panels themselves, if we had snowball or, baseball size hail come through, those panels aren't going to stand up to that. And that is why we have insurance, so that we can replace those and continue earning income by selling power to the utility.
I understand the insurance, and I understand in 30 years, I don't know where we're going to be. I don't know what companies are going to be left, or even a company that's getting subsidized and they put on employees, and when that subsidized goes away, does that company shrink down and just maintain what they have? I don't know. But the other thing that I found fascinating is Kyle, the information that you gave me, it says that if the water gets contaminated, the city could be liable for what they say. So the city and its officials' discretionary immunity could be denied, so they would be at risk if anything ever happened. And we don't know. I haven't seen a guarantee that these panels are not going to create a problem for our water. That's what I'm trying to get to. I see everything good about it, but I just don't see the guarantee down the road in 30 years where we're going to be for our grandchildren and our children, that if the expense comes out of their pocket to have to do a wellhead. So if it costs $20 million to build a wellhead now, I can't even assume what it's going to cost in 30 years. That's my concern.
And I don't want to overstep in terms of my area of knowledge, but my understanding was the concerns about contamination were if other development were to take place. So from my perspective, there's glass, aluminum, steel, some mineral, some FR3 fluid and transformers. I just don't see what chemicals are present on the site that will be able to leach. That's where, for me, I want to sleep every night. If I thought there was even a remote chance that this was going to pollute people's water, I wouldn't get up and do this every day. I just wouldn't. It's not how I'd make my living. I can't necessarily answer every question to a way that's going to satisfy you, and I'm sorry for that. But we're committed to doing the research a lot. Like, if we go forward, we can put these monitors in, so you have the assurance of, like, yeah, this water is now being monitored probably potentially to a higher degree than it's being monitored now. And we have a partner in mind that, again, we don't want to spin them up and have them use their consultant's time if y'all decide you don't want a project here. But at the end of the day, demonstrating that this does protect water is one of the reasons we're excited about this site to begin with. So, you're welcome. Yes, sir?
Got a question. It goes back to one of the residents' question of maintenance. Are you guys responsible for that, or is the city responsible?
We're 100% responsible for everything that goes on within the fence. So operating, maintaining, repairing, decommissioning, removing, all of those things are spelled out in our lease and would be our responsibility.
And with the current setup that you have on this, how much power do you expect to make, and is it going to be worthwhile with just this amount of solar panels?
That's a great question. I don't want to speak to the fraction that it represents for the utility, but it is only a fraction of your annual consumption. But it's enough to power roughly the equivalent energy consumption of 1,300 homes in Wisconsin every year. So it's about 10 million kilowatt hours is the number that, I think it was just under 10 million maybe. Somewhere around 10 million kilowatt hours.
And that's for per year? For the year?
Per year, correct. Anybody else?
I know you kind of mentioned the decommission, but in that lease, there is some about the securities that you have to put money into.
Yeah.
That'd be the first thing that would come from it.
Yeah, I could.
Reevaluate every 5 years, I believe.
Correct, yeah. The way we do that is we hire sometimes it's one, but usually two independent engineers to evaluate the cost to remove the system and the salvage value of the materials that remain. So the steel, the copper, things that have recyclable value. We evaluate that sometimes right before construction, if AHJ requires it, sometimes earlier. We use the average value of those two studies. And what we look at is the net salvage value. So if the cost to remove and dispose of the equipment exceeds the value of the materials that are going to be extracted, then we put a security in place, whether it's a corporate letter of credit or a bond or something. We work with the different AHJs, have different preferences that way. But then what we have seen, just to be really clear, in the first 5 years, usually there's enough residual value there that the cost to remove is less than the value of that material. So then our plan would be to reevaluate that in 5 years. And if and when that flips, that's when we would establish a bond. That's the way we typically do it, and there are a variety of permutations of that. Yes, sir?
Can you talk to a little bit about sound? I mean, transformers hum.
Yeah. We design all of our systems with the equipment located as centrally as possible, partially for that very reason. We anticipate the way it's designed, you should hear no perceivable sound at the fence line of these projects. The fact that you've got the 150 to 200 foot tree buffer around it will mute it a little bit more. So I would not expect to hear any noise outside of this array.
Right at the transformer, the sound is?
I do not have the exact decibel number. I mean, there is a percent, if you're standing by an inverter or a transformer, you'll hear it humming. That's absolutely true. We locate them in the center just to add to to add a little bit more buffer auditorially for people.
Anyone else?
And if I could just add one more little thing, in the last meetings, the first meeting, there were a lot of folks that had opposition to our project. I was really grateful for how respectful everyone was, and I think that is, I wish that was always the case, but we're all just out here working and doing our best, and I appreciate that the folks that were opposed were still respectful. So,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, back to the commission. Item 5, just on the rezoning. What are your wishes?
If I can make a comment, I'd like to read just a sentence from this document that we received from the water superintendent, just coming back to the rezoning. One of the most major concerns of the EPA and DNR is the residential development can lead to VOC and nitrates. I have a specific experience with nitrates where my last house was contaminated with nitrates, and I spent thousands of dollars treating my water, still dealing with the health implications that are associated with drinking contaminated nitrates, and ended up moving because of it. So I am here because I dealt with nitrate contamination. So I wholeheartedly believe it would be in our best interest to rezone this to a conservancy.
I'd just like to make a comment related to what was just said. So also, I think what was mentioned by the gentleman previously speaking, the developer, about monitoring the water quality as part of the project. I would see that actually as a benefit when we talk about nitrates being the source of contamination with, fertilizers, and I don't think this has been brought up yet, or when these wells were put in, but the proximity to the golf course that's next door, I would think that would be a concern as far as nitrates getting into the water supply, and being able to monitor that on an ongoing basis, I think would be beneficial.
Thank you. Going back to commission.
I'd make a motion to approve the request to change the zoning on the project, the property listed to C1 Conservancy Zone.
All right, I got a motion by Tao,
I'll second.
second by Marutz. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 7-0. Item 6, action on a request from the City of Wisconsin Rapids Waterworks and Lighting Commission for the conditional use permit to construct a solar power plant at 2211 Whitrock Avenue, parcel ID 341-4515 and 2520 2 Mile Avenue, parcel ID 341-4520. Commission, what are your wishes? Mr. Kearns?
I just want to note with the previous comment brought up in regards to the water testing, we are recommending approval. Our recommendation did not change from last month. We outlined the reasoning in the staff report. But we do have 4 conditions that we've added. One of them is in regards to the security fence that's proposed. But if groundwater testing is a concern, you could certainly add that. If the conditional use permit is approved tonight, you could add that as a condition onto the conditional use permit. I just asked for specific language.
So just to clarify, this is going to be part of the conversation with the finance and property, or with this not with this conditional use permit?
Yeah, I'm saying if the concern to require testing of the wells or the water, it can be added as a condition onto the conditional use permit
Okay.
tonight, with the recommendation taken forward to council.
Okay. Was there any other information on the conditional use permit that you needed to get out there, or that you guys have questions on?
I guess, to Mr. Kern's point, if we did list water testing as a recommendation, is that something that Waterworks and Light would perform, or would that be One Energy Renewables?
My personal opinion would be that we'd ask the developer to hire a third party to perform the test, but that's my personal opinion. I think if Water and Light or the developer want to speak to that further, they can certainly address that question.
I would recognize anybody from Water and Light if they chose to address this.
So Adam, our water superintendent, is the expert on this, but what I would tell you is that we are already required by the DNR to conduct tests on the water system, and he would know the exact number. Off the top of my head, I think we do 50 tests a month or something of that sort, but don't quote me on that. What Stanley was talking about is he has a research group that's excited about this project, and they would actually be fully funded on their own and would like to actually study the site because they believe they could write a research paper that would show that these prairie grass root system would actually improve the water quality. So I think you would have two different things happening. You would have the utility doing the normal water quality tests that it already does, which is a DNR requirement, and then you would also have this outside group that would want to do this study for us on this project so that they could write a research paper on it.
Hey, Todd, does the DNR require tests at each wellhead or at the plant?
That is a really good question, Matt, and I'm assuming that we have to do them at each wellhead in addition to 50 locations after the filter plant. So after it comes to the plant and we remove the iron content from the water, I know on the distribution system we do these tests every month, but I'm also going to say that we're doing them at the wells, and if we're not, we can add that easy enough.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
So, from the sounds of it, if we required the developer to do the additional testing, it sounds like that's something they're interested in doing anyway. So, I think that would be a good recommendation to add.
Commission, any other comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor, could you just explain the process from where it comes to here and where it's going to go? Like, there's some stuff that's going to finance, or just going directly to council?
So right now, so again, the council has to, vote on the zoning, which you guys already have voted on, or we voted on. What we're talking about voting on now is conditional use permit. And so that would also have to go to the council through the planning commission, and they would have to, vote to give them the conditional use permit. But ultimately, through the finance and property committee, that committee has to vote on, are we funding? Are we going ahead with the solar project, signing a contract? We've already signed a letter of intent, thank you very much. Letter of intent so that we could get to January. By the end of January, we need a yes or no in terms of, is the finance and property committee voting to go forward with the solar array, and then is the council also as a whole voting on it? Okay. Mr. Austin? Mr. Taup?
Question is, if this does not pass this commission, then it fails, right? Or does it, or to just still go forward?
It would, did you want to answer this before?
Yeah, the board, if it makes a recommendation to deny, it'll still go to council, and council can overturn that recommendation. Either way, essentially. I'll also note that, from a timeline standpoint, if the conditional use permit is approved, there's nothing in that approval that requires the solar project to happen. For instance, there are other times that users have obtained a conditional use permit at the plan commission and council level, but haven't achieved, the financing required, and so the project never moved forward. The conditional use permit is usually very specific to that project. So if, again, the conditional use permit was approved, but the solar project didn't move forward, there's no negative repercussion in that aspect. Another user couldn't come and put in a different solar power plant under that previous approval. It's very specific to this use, to this site plan, this user, and so forth.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Austin?
I'll just say, I mean, to me, this body making this decision is cart before the horse. I think, ultimately, this decision is going to come down to our elected officials, and I think at that point, it would probably make more sense to go after the conditional use if it is something that we decide to move forward with. But being that we're here, and this would be the second time that we've punted this item down the road, I understand, we don't need to be spinning our wheels either. So I understand the hesitance from commission members here, especially not knowing if this project is actually going to be a reality. But at the end of the day, I think we're all capable of making a decision we feel is best for our community.
I would add to that just 2 clarification points. I understand what you mean by punting it down the field, but I also want to just let everybody know we've listened to the people that are concerned, and we wanted to be able to give everybody time to be able to express their concerns and talk about it, because it is a big thing and it's important. And so we're doing our due diligence to be, good representatives for our community, but at the same time, we're being asked to be the representatives of the community according to the way our government's set up. So, and that being said, you're right. We kind of went back and forth, like, which comes first, chicken or the egg, right? Do we give the conditional use permit, or do we do we agree to the financing, which is what the property and finance is going to do, is say yes to the money behind it, yes to the contract. So either way, we're going to have to come back to the table and answer. And right now, our job is to just say yes or no. Like, we either want to give the conditional use permit or we don't. So that being said, I'll make the motion to grant the conditional use permit with the conditions that have been presented by staff, as well as the one we added for the water monitoring.
And I'll second.
Oh, Mr. Kearns?
Do you want to specify if that water monitoring is just being done through Waterworks and Lighting Commission, a third party, the research group? I guess how specific do you want to get?
It seems like right now what the commission's asking and agreeing to is for the third party that's a part of One Energy's again, we don't know if that's a possibility. They didn't really ask for sure, but I guess we would be saying we really want it. And I guess Stanley, would be asking you, like, if we really want it, can we really get it? Or is that, is that something that is up in the air right now?
If it's a condition of the permit, then we will either accommodate that or not go the project. So I think we would be happy, we want to do that study, but if for some reason we couldn't, it's a condition of the CUP.
Okay. So you're saying if you can't do it, then it would just stop the project? Okay. All right. Everybody comfortable with that? Got it. All right, so we got a motion by Zacher, seconded by Austin. Any other questions or comments? Yep, Mr. Towle.
I'm not in favor of this just because of the location that it's at. I'm just not comfortable with that. So I'm going to vote no on it, but I just wanted to voice my opinion that I think there's use our city as a test rat or a test location.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, Todd, if we want to talk a little bit about the other opportunities that he kind of looked over and put out there. And I don't necessarily, I don't think I'm the one that should speak to it. But yeah, we're running into, like, right now, we're specifically, they're asking us for this location because it's the one they vetted out, and we're kind of running out of time. Although anything else could happen afterwards. Did you want to expand, Todd?
So, I sent to the Planning Commission and also the City Council and a number of other city employees the notes that I had taken over the last few months as we were evaluating other sites. And so that's like a 5 or 6 page document that you should have been able to see and look at.
Just to interrupt you, Todd, some of these commission members received them documents today as they arrived to this meeting, unfortunately.
Okay. So what that did is, our first choice was we would like to have done this over a landfill. Everybody was in agreement with that. When we had the meetings with One Energy and the other solar installers, they said that's not a viable option because you could puncture the clay cap of the landfill, and eventually over time the weight of the solar panels will sink into the landfill and cause all types of problems for the solar array. So that was completely ruled out. The next thing we looked at then was we wanted to build this right next to what we call our Baker substation, which is off of right around 33rd Street and Airport Avenue. We only own 5 acres of land next to the substation. We needed about 25 acres of land. We actually did contact landowners adjacent to the properties. Nobody was interested in selling. So that was why that site was taken out. So then we started looking at areas of land that either, you say utility owned, but city owned, and it has to do with a whole nother thing of did the ratepayers finance the purchase or did the taxpayers finance the purchase? I don't want to get into that whole deal, but what I did was I looked at any 25 acres of land or greater that was either purchased by ratepayers or taxpayers. And the reason for that is if you're going to try to lease land and pay a rental fee, it starts making the project financially unattractive. And if you have to purchase land that we don't have, that makes the project look financially unattractive. And so this type of solar array is what's called a behind-the-meter solar array. It means that the electricity generated has to be used by the customers of the utility. It cannot be pushed back onto the grid. And that comes into the study then, because when you start looking at where these other locations that this city owns land in, it's no longer viable. This location, as well as all the other wellhead locations in this area, are viable because the load of the feeder in this area is always 6 megawatts or higher. So you know that the power generated will never get pushed back onto the grid. If it does get pushed back onto the grid, then you open yourself up to fines from MISO. And so that's important for this type of project. So anyway, what I did was I kind of comprised all my notes over the last few months, and I listed the other 7 locations. This is one of the 7. And I went through an analysis of, is this a good site or not a good site? A lot of the sites would have needed new distribution lines built to them, or at the very least, the conductor resized all the way from the substation to the site. And again, financially, it just became less and less and less attractive. The only sites that are attractive are the ones that are by the wells right now. And again, the reason that we feel, and our water superintendent Adam feels, and he's again the person trained for this type of thing, is it's safe to do because of the materials that you're using for the solar array are not ones that would leach chemicals. When you look at the DNR reports for the wells, their primary concern is nitrates. They're also concerned about if you have anybody reseal coating their driveways, that runoff can actually contaminate your well. And then the other thing they're looking at is if you ever have fire pits and anybody uses any type of accelerant on a fire pit, that can also contaminate your well. But it's primarily the nitrates that they're worried about, and this project has no nitrates involved in it whatsoever. So, so again, that kind of goes over the review of everything. For the project to be financially attractive, you're looking at the sites that we're proposing.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, just related to the sites that were listed here on this handout. So I'm looking at number 4, which is the parcel located east of Walmart between 12th and 16th Street. And it says this parcel could be used for the solar array, but is an ideal location for future housing development. And estimated cost is $100,000, so I don't know why is that site specifically ruled out. That's not acceptable.
So one of the big concerns the city's been having is they would like to build housing so that they can increase or have more property tax revenue. That particular site has no wellhead protection on it, so there are no building restrictions on it. So it's an ideal site if you're going to put in some type of housing developments. That's where that should go. So if you take that site up and put the solar array there, now you don't have that site available for future housing development. Yeah, so all those other sites are only 40-acre sites, so you would be basically taking down all the trees on the 40 acres. That's why we picked the 80-acre site, because we can leave basically a 40-acre border around it, so you're basically putting it inside of the 80 acres so you don't see it.
Another clarification too, we certainly tax revenue helps, but also we need housing for people to live here in order for the city to grow affordable housing and the such. So that's also an issue that's out there. Coming back to the commission again, or actually we have a motion by Zacher, second by Austin. Still working through questions, comments? Who else?
I agree with the people, and we need to listen to them. I agree what the one said, that if it went to a referendum, it'd be interesting to see if this would pass, and I really don't think so, because everybody I've talked to, there's more opposed to it, just the location, than those that are for it, if you go out and talk to the community. And I talk to people at work, and I listen to these people here, and again, when we had our public hearing, there's more against it than it's for it. And being a representative, I have to represent the people, so my vote will be no.
Okay.
I just have to say, I mean, based on what we've heard tonight, I think there's an awful lot of misinformation out there as well, a lot. So as far as the referendum is concerned, though, timing-wise, if that was something we could do, is it even viable to make this project happen if we went to referendum? I'm getting no, so that would take it off the table too.
The reasoning is, without saying the wrong words here, but the federal government took away any incentives for solar projects. That starts in 2026. So the fact that we had our letter of intent in 2025 allows us the month of January to get a contract signed. Outside of that, it's a done deal, because once the incentives are gone, the project isn't financially viable. All right. If there are no further questions or comments, I'll probably just take a vote. Do it by hand, keep your hands up so we can write down. We're going to want to write down what's what. So all those in favor.
I was going to say, I can just call the roll.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the motion on the floor is to approve the conditional use permit, adding the condition that, the 4 conditions staff are recommending, as well as the condition in regards to the water testing as it applies to the research opportunity with the developer. And I will go ahead and call the roll. Mayor Zacher?
Aye.
Alder Austin?
Aye.
Commissioner Tao?
No.
Commissioner Dobbin? Commissioner Marutz?
Nay.
Commissioner Bailey?
Aye.
Commissioner Schifferow? Motion passes 5-2.
All right, thanks, everybody. Item 7, action on petitioner's request to discontinue vacate the portion of A Street Avenue North from Brown Street to Wilson Street. Mr. Kearns?
Thank you. This is a request, again, as you've stated, to vacate a portion of this road right-of-way. There's a memo attached to this item. As indicated in the memo, there are no underground utilities here. From a development standpoint, it's unlikely that we would extend utilities further north. There's wetlands to the north. So as staff, we do support vacating this property and are recommending in doing so. If that's the case, because these are petition-led, it would eventually go to Common Council for final action.
Commission, questions or comments? If we're a little bit distracted there, do you need him to go over it again, or?
No, I'm good.
Good, all right.
I'll make a motion to approve the request as outlined.
I got a motion by Davin,
Second.
second by Austin. Commission, any further questions or comments? Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, 7-0. Item 8, public hearing and action on a request from the City of Wisconsin Rapids to amend Chapter 11 zoning ordinance, Article 6, Division 3, general standards pertaining to driveways. Mr. Kearns?
Thank you. So we're looking to create some consistency here with regards to primarily our setback requirements for driveways. You'll recall a few months ago, we amended our ordinance to approve gravel, and we allowed gravel to exist up to the lot line if it had edging or fencing. I think it's pertinent then to allow asphalt and or concrete up to the lot line as well, without fencing or edging, just again to create consistency. So we are recommending that change to occur within the ordinance, as well as a change to the auxiliary parking bays. This was something we recommended about a year ago initially, but there wasn't a comfort level to approve changes to auxiliary parking bays. But essentially, we are removing the screening requirement from auxiliary parking bays, as well as the size requirements for auxiliary parking bays. We're allowing them to be a little bit larger to accommodate some bigger RVs and recreational vehicles. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
So just a quick one for clarification. So you're talking about changing the ordinance to bring the concrete driveways into conformity with the gravel driveways, not vice versa?
Right, so previously, our ordinance required a 3-foot setback for all driveways. Previously, all driveways had to be hard surfaced, asphalt, concrete, or brick pavers. 2 months ago, we amended the ordinance to permit gravel, and with that ordinance amendment, it allowed gravel to be up to the property line if it was edged or fenced to prevent the gravel from spreading. I think it's inconsistent to allow gravel driveways to be up to the property line, but not allow concrete or asphalt driveways to be up to the property line. So we are requesting to create that consistency and allow concrete and asphalt as well to be up to the property line.
Okay, and so I guess to my mind, I would look at it from the other perspective of the gravel driveways should be conforming to what the hard surface is, not the other way around, but that's just my thought on it.
I would tend to agree, and you recall that staff did not recommend approving the gravel ordinance amendment. It provided quite a bit of feedback examples. I think it was a split decision here at Plan Commission. However, it was approved. And I think, again, while I don't necessarily support the gravel amendment, it is in the ordinance, it's part of the code, and I do think creating consistency within the ordinance is appropriate now that the gravel has been permitted.
Right, okay.
So just for clarification, and Michelle, if I speak out of line, please let me know. But, you know, we can make this motion because you want to make a motion, second it and vote on it. You can vote it down and you can bring up another, then you can make another motion. Always kind of in the positive, like this is what we want to do, not what we don't want to do. You know, so we have that option, just so you know, that's part of our powers to do that. Mr. Austin?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll add that the Common Council voted to approve the actions of the Planning Commission, and I believe that was 8-0. So I'll make a motion to amend Chapter 11 zoning ordinance as outlined by staff.
I'll second.
I got a motion by Austin, second by Marutz. Any other questions or comments? We may want to take roll call.
We can certainly do that. I will do it quickly. Mayor Zacher?
Aye.
Alder Austin?
Aye.
Lee Tao?
Aye.
Eric Doven? Jeff Marutz?
Aye.
Katie Bailey?
Aye.
Steve Schifferow. Motion passes 7-0.
Item 9, I adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate your patience and time.